Hello, welcome to another Real Raw Moment, and tonight's is about losing friends and how to make small talk in PA. And yes, believe it or not, they kind of go hand in hand. Before I get into that, let's get into what I'm not. I'm not a doctor, lawyer, therapist, or any other accredited body that can be used in your case. I'm simply a two-time alienated parent. I've been in the court system for over a decade and also have been on the receiving end of coercive control and narcissistic abuse. As the internet likes to say, this is for educational and or informational purposes only. I agree with the internet. I also like to say this is a safe space to have conversations and make comments. In fact, I encourage questions and comments, but I discourage or any disparaging, gender-based, or just in general angry hate speech. Don't do it. You'll get deleted and banned. Okay, enough of that stuff. So let's talk about losing friends in PA and also making small talk when you are experiencing PA. So I'm going to marry these up as best as I can and have them make sense. So let's talk about losing friends in PA. So in the past week, I've been asked this 3 different times. Have I experienced losing friends in PA as I've experienced PA? Now, again, I'm experiencing it for the second time. The first time was not as long as this time has been. So my first time was actually like in true alienation, only 6 months, which to some might sound very long, and others, depending on your experience, will say, well, 6 months, right? My second experience, which is still my current experience, has been 3.5 years. Right? So that's not so much of a drop in the bucket as 6 months may be perceived to be. Also in alienation currently, my child was mid-teens and is now, be considered an adult in January and is at university. So the conversations that you have around your child and how you approach PA with people is different than when my kids were 9 and 10 the first time around. So let's get back to, there's a little background as to how I'm going to approach things based kind of on age groups and in general. But here's one thing I can talk about kind of in totality, regardless of what children, what ages your children are at. Again, real raw moments done in one take. I don't edit. And that is losing friends in PA, losing people in PA. And I don't mean your alienated, targeted people. I mean friends, family. So why does this happen? Well, the number one reason, really, in my experience, is that people are tired of hearing about it. And here's why. PA, parental alienation, is a living grief. It's a living, growing, bubbling entity. So people can identify with if someone has died, passed away, that you're grieving, you want to talk about it, you're talking about it, processes it and get through it. You're going to be through the grief process in your own time, but there's an end to it, right? Yeah, at some point you're going to pick yourself back up, dust yourself off in a manner of speaking, and start to live what we'll call regular or normal life again, right? Grief in itself has a finality. Parental alienation does not. Not only is it a living grief, meaning we are constantly experiencing activation and triggers around very normal everyday life events, it doesn't have an end. There's not a time where I can even look to the future, I'll say for myself, look at the future and say, well, this will be over at some point and I will feel better. I will get through it. I will get over it. So long as my child is living and breathing and living a life out there that I am not privy to, a part of, etc., it does not end. Period. So, first of all, I hope if you're hearing this for the first time that this validates your feelings around alienation for those people that have told you just get over it. So let's talk about those people. Those people who say that to us largely are people in our life that we are close to. They can be family members, close family members, parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, best friends. Friends, especially friends that your children You've got mom or dad friends, right? Or community around school. Often our lives, because they revolve around our children, also revolve around school community, school events, basketball games, PAC, the Christmas bake sale, the Valentine's Day dance. I don't know. It depends on your district, your experience. So I'm generalizing here, but here's the point about that. When you're experiencing alienation, those connections suddenly are no longer valid for one. And people will attempt to stay together, and you may attempt to stay together and stay in because this was your community, this was your life. And people will tolerate it for a time, right? It's almost, I'm going to say it, it's almost like a car crash. Can't look away. People want to actually hear about it a little bit because they want to put themselves up against this litmus test of, could this happen to me? Is it happening to me? Because people are generally all about themselves. Here's where it gets hairy. PA doesn't end, and therefore our psyche, our thought process, our focus around our missing children doesn't change either. And so we can tend to sound like a broken record to most people. And it's not just that. It's not even, for some relationships, it's a fatigue. They get tired of hearing the same thing over and over again without a different result. Again, that is a definition of insanity. So human nature is kind of like, well, why isn't it fixed yet? And there becomes this shift with people when it's around our children. So instead of people getting curious as to why, and I always say get curious, not furious, as to why this is still happening to you, that's their perception, it's happening to you, and it is actually happening to you. Instead of sticking with you and be like, that just doesn't make sense. And let's be honest, PA doesn't make sense. I don't know any case that does. That's why it's called parental alienation. Rather than that, they will take a look at the situation and assign blame where they see fit. Well, we may have said it was mom or it was dad that took my children away. There's sympathy there. There's going to be activation there. There's going to be support there to a degree. Then there's going to be a thought process with our family, our friends, people who are privy to some of the details. Why haven't you fixed it yet? That is a big general emotion, statement, feeling. I've actually had it said to me about my own alienation situation. Why haven't you fixed it yet? Okay, well, without going into like every minute detail of everything I've tried, we try to keep it a little bit higher level because going into the minutiae is almost impossible. Then it turns into, well, obviously you are the problem. This happens a lot. And if you're watching this video and you feel like there's no way that would happen, comment below. If it has happened to you, comment below. This is my experience and experience of many of my clients and also people that just come to me and I talk to around alienation. They're like, why? Well, this is what happens. Humans don't do well without a solution or there being the prospect of a solution. And as parents, an alienated parent, we're perceived to have the power to fix the situation, and we quite simply do not. Then it becomes, well, obviously you're the problem. I've been told that before. Well, your son will speak to you. Obviously you're the problem. This is on you. That's why he's with his dad. That's why he won't talk to you. That's why he's blocked you. Now, is that true? Well, to a degree, based on my son's perception of me. Okay, fine. Could be. However, that's not the whole truth. But that's the offloading. People don't want to hear about it anymore. They don't want to hear how you're struggling. They do not want to hear about how you're sad and it's another Christmas. Now, I'm recording this on December the 8th, 2024. Probably shouldn't date my videos, but here we go. This kind of season, well, there has to be someone to blame. And if the child is with the other parent, the alienated parent, then obviously there's not a problem with them, so therefore the problem is you. And that's where we start to lose friends, because they feel, I'm out, I'm done. I don't want to talk to you about this anymore because clearly you, me, the alienated person, is not willing to do what you need to do to get your child back. Clearly, because you don't have your child back. Now, I always wonder if these videos that someone's watching that has not experienced alienation, they're like, this is bizarre. But I can hear my alienated people's going like, yep, totally get and hear that. So that's part one, the why we lose people. And what I say about losing people like that, in general, is let them go with grace. That is their opinion. That does not make them bad people. That makes them them. And they may come back into your life at some point. They may not. That's okay either way. They're not made for your life right now. Let them go. Now, in the process of letting them go, though, your circle becomes very, very, very small. And the people who are willing to listen to you, even smaller. And that is very isolating, which is what alienation is. Isolates us from our children, isolates us from life in the world. That's why I do things like run my Sunday support group, where it's a space to be seen and heard. So let's talk about, we're going to segue into being seen and heard and small talk in parental alienation, because again, we are in, and this does tie in, we're into right now the holiday season, but this applies to anywhere. It can be the grocery store, it can be, with anybody, stranger or person that you know, that asks about your alienated child. This is a very difficult situation for alienated parents, because what do you say? I just talked about telling the whole kind of truth and how we lose people. That alienates people from us. So what do you do? What do you do when somebody asks you about your child, how they're doing? Especially, well, it can be somebody that knows you have children, or it can be in a cocktail party or an event where, do you have children? You say, well, automatically you say, well, yes, I do. Oh, how old are they? Okay. Oh, where do they go to school? I want to freeze and run away, because that's already getting too personal, right? Information that we freely gave before, statistics about our children, technically aren't even available to us anymore. So how do you manage these social situations where you are oppressed, your back's up against the wall, you're getting asked about your children? What do? You prepare in advance. What I tell my clients, and really anyone I talk to, is prepare 3 or 4 basic statements that set boundaries around questions regarding your alienated child or children. So very simply, if I get asked about my son, I always like to use a personal example. If I get asked about my son by someone that knows me or does not, where does your son go to school? That's a fact I actually do know by accident, but I do know where he goes to school right now. I can say that because it's a university and I can be somewhat socially acceptable, but I don't know what he's studying. I have no clue anything else about his life. So what do? I've kind of committed now. My son goes to, oh, what is he studying? I appreciate your interest in all of this, but there's some stuff going on in my family right now, and I'm really not comfortable talking about that. That's one of my set boundary statements. So I encourage you to, I was running out of time already. I encourage you to write 3 or 4 statements, general statements to start. They're going to support you in not giving your trauma resume, not everything about alienation, and still allowing you to remain social. And that involves setting boundaries. Because here's the thing. You cannot think and feel at the same time. And I guarantee you, in a social situation, you get asked a question, you're going to feel. You're going to start getting the feels. And your brain's going to shut down. Except it's going to have those 4 or 5 index cards, those post-it notes of applicable statements that you can make that are socially acceptable, and also set a boundary in a very gentle and reasonable way. Not a bitchy way, not an aggressive way, just a boundary. Oh my gosh, we are running out of time. Comment below. Ask me questions. How do we set boundaries? What do we say? What do we do? I've got so much more to say. All right, comments below.